What's up everybody, it's Matt for Peter Glenn, and in this video we're going to show you how to sharpen your edges on your own. Let's check this out. All right, so having your edges sharp can definitely be one of the most important things out there, especially if you're like me and you're riding in the Midwest and you do like to carve. And you get into those icy conditions, you want these edges to be as sharp as possible so they can really dig in and cut into that ice instead of giving out. If you're riding rails and stuff, you might not want your edges as sharp, or you might want them sharp in certain places, but that has to do a little bit more with detuning, and we'll leave a link in the description down below to our video all about detuning. But other than that, keep your edges sharp. Obviously, the best way to do this is to head into one of the Peter Glenn stores and have one of our techs in the back use the precision machinery and make sure that those edges are super sharp and ready for that ice. But if you don't have that luxury, we do sell a lot of these pocket sharpeners that are easy to keep around the house, throw in your bag so you can make sure that your board is nice and sharp on your own. So a lot of these pocket sharpeners are mainly set up to do the side of your edge, which is most important. You get in the different angles, making sure that thing is nice and sharp. But some of them do actually have a way that you can turn the file sideways and you can get the base of the board. Not something that's as important, but it's definitely a nice feature. So starting off with the side of the board, since that's going to be the one that's most important, if you pull that little file out of your pocket tuner, you're going to notice on the edge of the file itself, there's going to be an arrow. Whether it's printed, etched, stamped into it, there's going to be an arrow of some sort. These files are directional. If you go one way, it's going to sharpen the board. If you go the opposite way, it's not going to do anything. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to that arrow, and when you are pushing the file against your snowboard, you want to make sure that it's traveling in the direction of that arrow. So we're going to go ahead and drop that inside the file. Now, another thing that you're going to notice on these files is if you look at one side, there's going to be one number, and if you flip it over, there's going to be another number on the other side. Usually it's going to be a 90 on one side, and then when you flip it over, then you're going to see a number like 89, 88, 87, 86. Usually you won't see too much past 86, but those are basically different angles of your edge. Now, 90, that means 90 degrees. If you look at your edge and you look at a complete 90-degree angle, that's a pretty standard angle. But as you go into some of these lesser angles, basically the smaller the number, that means that you're going to get more angle on your edge. And the more angle that you get on that edge gets it closer to a knife, something that's going to dig in really well when you get into those icy conditions. Now, if you're looking at a snowboard, you're usually not going to go too much past 88. Sometimes on skis, if you're racing and you really need that super sharp edge, you might go a little bit more towards the 87. But it's good to know that if you want a harder bite, you go less angle. If you want your standard bite, go more towards a 90. Now, the ever confusing, which side actually goes down to get you the correct angle? Now, the way to look at it, and I don't know the last time I saw one that wasn't this way, but if you want an 88-degree angle, you're gonna want that against the board. If you want the 87-degree angle, you're gonna want that against the base of the board. Whatever angle you want, that goes down against the board. So on this board, we're gonna do an 88. So again, we're gonna set that 88 right against the board. And one thing that I like to do, and not everybody has this luxury, but if you have your board sitting flat, you want to push this thing down against the base of your board, but you need to push it against the edge as well. Me, with these Swix tuning vices, I actually like to tip the board up. So when I'm pushing down, that's going against the edge. This basically just helps sharpen it a little bit better. And we basically push the sharpener against the base of the board, but we're pushing the metal, we're pushing the file down against the edge. So as we start to do this, again, we're going to look at our arrow. My arrow is pointing in that direction. That means that every stroke I do is going to want to be in that direction. So we're going to go basically from one end to the other, from tip to tail or tail to tip, and you're going to go ahead and set that again against the board. Make sure that this part is as flat against the board as you can get it, and you can kind of get a little good grip on this thing. And then we're going to push the metal down. You don't need to push it down super hard, but give a little bit of pressure on top of the edge, and we're going to go ahead and swipe down the board. Now, you'll feel it grabbing a hold of the edge. If you feel like it's sliding and you don't feel any resistance at all, that means one of two things. You're pushing in the wrong direction, or you're not pushing down enough. And again, you don't have to push down super hard. but you should feel a little bit of resistance as you go along the edge. And you can work in segments, but you don't want to work to one spot. You want to basically overlap so you're getting a good peel off of the edge. And you'll start seeing some of those shavings, especially inside the tuner itself, so you know that you're actually peeling up your edge. So we're going to give it a few swipes. Now, as you go down the edge, you can kind of feel it a little bit. Another good thing to know too is if you want to figure out if your edge is sharp or not, is use your fingernail, go on a 45-degree angle and kind of scrape it against the corner of that edge. If it peels your fingernail up, that means it's sharp. If not, you probably could use a few more swipes. So once you've felt that and you've done your kind of 3 sections, now it's good to just give it another swipe where you're gonna go moderate pressure all the way along the edge, just to make sure that you get a good uniform sharpness all the way along the edge. So from there, if your sharpener does have the option to do the base, we basically flip the board over, and on this one, we're gonna go ahead and set it so the arrow is pointed up. And this has 2 options. It has a 0.5 and a 1. And those are basically kind of different bevels for the bottom of your board. Whether the base, if this is the base facing up and this is your edge, it kind of basically takes the edge and drops it down a little bit for that 1 and gives you some bevel where the edge is actually off the snow a little bit more, or that 0.5 is going to keep it a little bit sharper and a little bit more aggressive. But it's very similar. We go ahead and set that in there, and then we're going to go ahead again, set it against the base of the board. We're going to put some pressure down and push it against the edge this way, and we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to do a few swipes along the board. This one can be a little easier to do a uniform pass from tip to tail. But again, check that edge, make sure that you're feeling up your fingernail and you know that it's nice and sharp. Now from here, a good thing to do is to clean that edge up. Whether you take a paper towel and we wipe it down, or one of the best things to do is get yourself a gummy stone. And these are a super good tool to have because one, when you're done sharpening your edge, this will actually help clean it up and get any tiny little burrs and things off of the edge. But this is also a great way to get rust off of your edges without having to use a file. You can just give it a quick rub, clean your edge up, and it does help get those little burrs and things off your edge so you've got a nice, sharp edge that's gonna dig into that ice. Another good thing to have, and it's not a tool that's a must, but it's one thing that can help keep these files lasting a little bit longer, is to have a wire brush with some good stiff bristles. And this is something that when you're done sharpening your board, you can kind of take that and go along with the lines in the file, and it does help clean some of those burrs out and just help keep your file clean. So obviously once you've got that one side done, do the exact same thing to the other side of your board. But if you got any questions beyond what we talked about in this video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that you can maintain it well too. Also make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop, and grab yourself a new pocket tuner and keep that board nice and sharp so you can get out and ride, because any day riding is a good day riding.